Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, we're going into week 13 because this is the last week before playoffs for fantasy. Half the week
Yes,
after. Okay.
of which I lost my first game last week.
Shit.
I know, so I'm 11-1 now. I
Rest in
know.
pepperoni.
I know. It'll be fine though. Really exciting week here, like the most exciting week actually that we've had so far. It was absolute mayhem, and I had some breaking news come in while I was at work, and I'm like texting Z to be like, yo, check this out immediately. We're going to talk about it right away. Recently, just today, the NFL has reinstated Josh Gordon from the Seahawks from his indefinite suspension. So last December, he was suspended indefinitely for the violation of performance-enhancing substances and substance abuse. And he's had 6 suspensions, and 5 were due to substance abuse in a variety of forms. So apparently his most recent one was a result of his reaction to the death of his brother. So I guess he was going through a tough time and got involved with something that he shouldn't. And I guess the league had enough with him, and out he went indefinitely. But they just lifted that. I'm not sure why. Maybe they just decided that he's A-okay and he's turned it around. So he's going to be able to, I don't think he can practice with the team yet, but he can be watching film and hanging out, and then he can play and travel with them in week 15. So as a Seahawks fan and a fan in general, what are your thoughts on this, and what kind of impact do you think Gordon's going to make going forward with the Seahawks?
You don't see that a lot. Like, he obviously had to appeal, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious to see how the appealing process went and how they were they had the idea to switch their position. So that's going to be interesting in the coming days. We're going to figure out about that. As far as Josh Gordon on the Seahawks, he's a phenomenal wide receiver, but we have Tyler Lockett, we have Moore, we have DK Metcalf, we have like an
Yeah.
unreal wide receiver core as it is. So I don't necessarily think in Josh Gordon's case, coming in during the playoffs or right before, or maybe week 16, he'll get some snaps, but I don't see him going to impact the team that much. He still has to. He's had a long time off, so he'll get involved, and he won't get involved in the way that I think that people are expecting, because when you have those wide receivers in front of you, plus Chris Carson, who's back, who's been on fire, Carlos Hyde's been really good, even with DJ Dallas being there, and he can step up when he needs to. They're
Yeah,
so deep.
not to mention that he hasn't played for a year, like literally a year. So, yeah, I see what you're saying there. People are excited about him coming back, and just in general, the NFL turning this over. But yeah, you're probably right. He's gonna just be slotted in there occasionally, but yeah, I don't see him going too far. But that's nice, and I wonder why they brought him back. I mean, an indefinite suspension is really serious. But I mean, I guess a year is enough. I don't know. What do you think?
It's got to be the appeal. That's all it is, and I just want to know what angle there was really. Just maybe he went to rehab. I don't even know. Like, if as long as he's just off the drugs, then he should be fine.
Yeah, especially with 6 suspensions and 5 of them being related to the same kind of violation. It's bizarre to me, but hopefully this means he's made a really big turnaround, because it's huge news. So that's exciting. And potentially even huger news. I don't know. I thought this was massive when I found out earlier this week that Will Fuller has been suspended for 6 games for the use of performance enhancing drugs. So he commented on Instagram, quote, earlier this year I sought treatment from a medical professional who prescribed medication that he believed to be permitted under the NFL's drug policy. As it turns out, my trust in this professional was misplaced because this medication was not a permitted substance under the NFL policy on performance enhancing substances. And it goes on to say a little bit more about how regretful he is, and he hopes to come back better next year. unbelievable. He's had a fantastic season. He's on my roster, and he had a huge game last week. So he'll be suspended for the remaining 5 games of this season and the first game of next season. And just an interesting fact, because we also love DeAndre Hopkins in this podcast, through 11 games, Fuller has had more receiving yards and touchdowns than the Texans' former number 1 wide receiver, who was DeAndre Hopkins, at this point in the season last year. So he had been fantastic. And the question that I posed to you is, do you believe that Will Fuller did not know that the substance was violating the PED rules, like genuinely didn't know, and how much of his impressive season can be contributed to the use of these drugs?
Yeah, so I believe the ramifications for these things. It's not the 90s, it's not the early 2000s. Like, they know how serious it is, and that's why they spend so much money. Like, I think it's LeBron James who spends $1 million on his healthcare routine, and trainers and nutritionists, and they give them supplements, and they have to have that nailed, right? And they're all they have trainers at the facilities, and they're totally hooked up with a routine. Like, they have to be so careful for this exact reason. And the fines that Will Fuller incurred, like $3 million, almost
What?
$3 million in fines.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
for this uh for this discrepancy. Like, it's a problem, and like, they know that. So if I truly believe had no idea what was going on. And I mean, that I tried to look around for um across sports in general, like how that's impacted different leagues or different sports. Like, have people taken medications that were not um okay on the league rules, right? And I couldn't find a whole lot on that. So maybe this is a one-off. I feel bad. That's a steep fine. That's a steep problem, uh, and a fine. So I'm not too happy on that.
I mean, we should
And
mention
it's
that there was another player with Will Fuller who was suspended as well, but I think he was kind of irrelevant, so I didn't even write it down. Will Fuller was just a player on my team and a huge player within the league, really big presence, so that's why we're talking about him. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like you said, since there is so much at stake here with the substances that they consume, you would think that they would like comb through it very, very carefully, every single thing that they're taking. And there is so much information out there, so how could he not know? And I guess it's not necessarily on him. Like, he has a medical professional who he is trusting here, but it's your livelihood, it's your career that we're talking about. So I don't know how much responsibility we put on him. I'm conflicted about the whole thing, but what kind of is throwing me for a loop is like, is he that good now? Like, can we say that he has had a better season than DeAndre Hopkins did last year, given that he was taking performance enhancing drugs? So, do you think it's raw talent, or do you think it is attributed to these drugs?
I think it's the fact that DeAndre Hopkins isn't there, and between D Hop's not there. Will Fuller's like the number one. Randall Cobb's up there too. They're just getting on a roll. For the first half of the season, they were pretty awful, and now they're starting to turn things around. So I do think a lot of it is talent,
Okay.
and more opportunity that enables him to have such a good season.
Yeah, more touches.
Way more
No,
touches.
he was close to going to the Packers too. So thank goodness. I think we were giving up draft picks for him. We dodged a bullet there. But yeah, really, really disappointing news, especially for fantasy owners. And it isn't great for the legacy either. Like, now we're questioning how much of it was genuine talent. You're saying that it was his pure talent and just opportunities, but a lot of people out there are going to be questioning what he is capable of. So who knows? Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I just hope that, I mean, I put how the situation played out. I truly think that it was a mistake, and If it's not, shame on him. But like, the
Shame on
fines are.
him. Okay, Grandma.
If we see the fines, we see the impact it's going to have on him, right? He's done for the
Yeah.
rest of the year, and like it's just the NFL has to come down and they have to make an impact on things like this and set the bar so that it's like, hey, everyone in the league, like if you have a trainer outside of the facility, if you guys are taking supplements that aren't given to you by the team, then like you need to be super careful, or else look at what happened to Will Fuller.
Yeah, definitely making an example of him, and I think it will definitely scare people in the future, or at least encourage them to look more closely at the prescriptions that are coming their way. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And in other news, we were going to talk about this earlier this week, but it just keeps unfolding and unfolding. Is that just basically how COVID is affecting the league? Starting off with the Steelers and the Ravens. We actually brought this up in last week's episode. They were expecting to have a Thanksgiving game, and it got delayed, and then it got delayed again. So it was moved to Wednesday at 3:40, and it was at 3:40, so that it did not interfere with the Christmas tree lighting at Rockefeller Center, it's funny to me because there are a lot of tweets from Steelers players just lamenting that they're losing their primetime spot, and then the final result is that they're getting like a mid-afternoon game that is playing second fiddle to Christmas tree lighting. They must have been so upset. And then in addition, the domino effect of this is that the Cowboys and Ravens game that was originally scheduled for Thursday is going to be moved to December 8th at 8:05 p.m. So lots is moving around here. What are your thoughts on kind of the implications of these games being switched around? How does that sit with you?
Well, they're being switched around, and even though for COVID protocol, like some players can't even come back. Like Lamar Jackson couldn't play, Ingram's not there, and J.K. Dobbins wasn't there. Like it affects the team, and they're not. It's regular season, and it matters, and they're going down the stretch, right? It's the same thing that happened with the Broncos, and they don't have the proper players, but they're still expected to play instead of moving the game to a later date. So I think at the end of the season for the 2020, like, do we even call it at this point? Because now it's starting to have a real effect. Is like, is this a real season, right?
Well, exactly, especially when you're seeing, like in the case of the Broncos that we'll get into the future, they didn't have a quarterback. Whereas in the case of the Ravens, they found a quarterback, but I guess it wasn't super successful. What are your thoughts on that?
No, well, I mean, for those who don't know, okay, I've Robert Griffin III started at quarterback for the Ravens. And he has been around for quite a long time. He's been in the league for like 8 years now. But he was at the top of the game. He was like the generational player that lasted about a year. And it was super unfortunate, all due to injuries. But he won the Heisman Trophy, and he took that and won with Baylor. He was a first overall pick with the Redskins, which are now the Washington football team. He won Rookie of the Year in 2012. But same with the whole Joe Burrow thing that happened last week. He got injured, like terribly. And so RG3, or Robert Griffin III, he's had just a laundry list of injuries, and he's been completely... He had a terrible fall from grace, which is totally unfortunate. So he came in, he started his game yesterday. I watched some of it, and he had a couple like vintage Robert Griffin III plays. So again, for those who don't know, he really started this trend of like quarterbacks that run with the ball. Super athletic guy. He made like a 40-yard carry yesterday that was just
That was
so
gorgeous.
smart.
It was so cool.
It was really cool to see him come back and play that again. But it was a terrible game all around.
Yeah, we'd rather have Lamar Jackson out there, who's also a fantastic running quarterback. So it's a true shame. Also, interesting fact about RG3: his hand size 9.5 inches. So
There you go.
we gotta know. I gotta put it out there. Do you have anything else on RG3 before we move on to the other disasters of the week?
God, no. I mean, we're gonna get Lamar Jackson back. RG3 is his career's basically done. He'll play a backup role for a while. But just how we saw that what happened to Joe Burrow last week, like I just hope he drinks his milk and he doesn't end up like RG3. That's it.
But at least the Ravens had a quarterback who is experienced at the position. Conversely, the Broncos, all three of their quarterbacks, their main quarterback, their starter, and then their two backups, all were out due to COVID protocol. So all three quarterbacks violated the COVID protocol, and Drew Lock was ruled out because he came into proximity with Jeff Driscoll, who tested positive, and he was also a quarterback. So the Broncos were forced to start Kendall Hinton, who is a undrafted rookie wide receiver from Wake Forest, and he was also a backup quarterback there, as it turns out. So they lost 31-3 to the Saints. I mean, interesting stat there is that they put up the same amount of points as Tom Brady did against the Saints with somebody who has very little experience as quarterback. So I thought that was quite interesting. But we also find that Drew Lock's mom enters the conversation, and she took to Twitter to express her feelings on the situation. So, quote, this is from a long Twitter rant that she has, but as a parent, an educator, a friend, a coworker, a boss, using people to make an example of a situation is wrong. The NFL used one of their own as an example. This is where the shame is. So, I guess she's upset because, like, Drew Lock didn't have COVID. He was just in proximity to people with COVID. He tested negative, but they're just taking a really hard stance on the situation. But the outcome is that they literally didn't have a quarterback. Like, at what point can you be lenient on it for the sake of the game? Like, he didn't have COVID. So what I'm just wondering is, do you think it was right, the stance that the league took and leaving Broncos completely high and dry, or should they have been a little bit more relaxed about it?
Mm, personally, they should have let him play. Uh, and I understand they have to like uphold the integrity of the laws and set the example. Da, 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 da. They have the rules that they got to follow, and they have to be in compliance with the NFL and the local authorities. Well, that's like the boring take on it. But like what that actually does and the implications of it, again, what I mentioned with the Ravens is it kind of makes it a bit of a mockery to not give them a real opportunity to win a game. Everyone there is getting paid so much money. It's not jokes. Like it's serious. It's so serious, and this season is not going to be taken seriously. There'll be a little note, a little
A little
heading
asterisk beside it, yeah.
of the season, because it's just like what they're barring players from even like playing, and teams are just a makeup of random people.
Yeah, like if
It's it
you win your division, but what does that mean if your opposing quarterback wasn't allowed to play for 3 games or whatever, or their star running back was out because of COVID protocols? So it is, yeah, definitely an asterisk beside the season here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Fun little fact though, Kendall Hinton made $35,000 playing quarterback that day.
Wow. I
There you
mean,
go.
I I would stand in there for $35,000. So, oh, what another fun stat about that game? He had like one completion and 2 interceptions, so he had more interceptions than completed passes. But I mean, bless him for trying. They're in a really tough situation. They didn't really stand a chance of winning that game anyways. That's the only kind of like redeeming quality of the situation is that no one thought that they could beat the Saints to begin with. It's a really tricky situation. But in the future, people are going to be extremely careful about their COVID protocol because the whole organization, the fans are extremely disappointed in Drew. He's probably majorly bummed himself. So in the future, hopefully it will be better. More COVID news as well. The 49ers will be playing their home games in Arizona because sports have been outlawed in Santa Clara County. So they don't have a home anymore. So I was wondering, do you think they should have made an exception for professional sports? Like all of the little league guys in college sports, they've all been banned. But the coaches were saying like we have a really good relationship with the city and with the county, so we thought there'd be more communication on this. What do you think? Should they have been more lenient for the professional sports?
No, they got to be. It's the only thing you're going to be able to do. And I mean, it's Santa Clara County. It's San Francisco. It's beautiful down there. And yeah, cases are on the rise, and that's something everyone's got to be super cautious about. But kids can't even play sports. Kids can't go outside and kick a ball around or throw a ball around for that point. It sucks. And I think at every level they should be able to. Everyone's gonna go crazy, just totally locked up because what they're doing their next 3 games out of Arizona.
Yeah.
That's how long that's a long time, and even for younger people to just like having that's a 3-week period of doing nothing. That sucks. Now, as far as like the professionals go, you just know that the person making these laws just isn't a sports person. They just don't get it. They
Yeah,
don't care.
and also like
They're some boring old politician.
and there aren't fans there either. So what really is the risk? I mean, especially if the team is going to travel and play their games elsewhere anyways. It's not like they're avoiding that congregation. It's going to happen somewhere. It's not going to take place in your county. So it's a little bit much for me. But in California, they're taking it super seriously. Like anywhere where the ICU capacity is below 15% or something like that, there's lockdowns going on. So there's a massive population in California. The COVID is running rampant still, so they're doing the best that they can. But it's kind of like it won't make much of a difference because it's just more of a hassle for this team, and you're making bad relationships with this industry, the NFL, that is bringing in so much like tourism and economic growth from people like coming to the games. You're just making a bad relationship there. I mean, it's not going to stop anything. People are still going to come to the games and everything, but I can see that it would be a little bit contentious at this point. So that pretty much does it for COVID news, except we are excited to see that Myles Garrett is coming back. Maybe that'll make some kind of impact for the Browns, but their season is not doing it for me either. All right, moving on from a few weeks ago. You like my lead in there? I'm very enthusiastic about this. I'm super pumped about this week. So next point of the news is that the NFL fined the Saints and stripped them of a 7th round draft pick for celebrating in the locker room after their win in Tampa. So the Saints are appealing the decision and arguing that other teams have done the same thing and not been punished for it. I think we all saw those videos of them just popping bottles after they beat Tampa in a really devastating and decisive victory against Tom Brady. But do you think it's overkill or is it necessary? What are your thoughts?
I thought it was necessary. I
Okay.
thought, but I'm gonna change my mind on this one
Oh, okay.
because it is so insane. Like money's one thing, right? Like you can fine a team for COVID violations, and that it'll sting, right? Don't get me wrong. And then management comes down on the team, and management obviously has to pay for everything. So and they'll deal with it all among the team themselves if people are breaking the laws or whatever. But to take a team's draft pick to really kill their future, like the NFL, they care so much about trying to do the right thing. Like we're seeing it in all these cases. Like you don't screw around in the NFL with COVID at all. You just play by the rules. A draft pick is savage though. Like money's one thing. Money, you can get money, whatever. But like, even though it doesn't matter if it's a 7th round pick, you get a guy, you get a Tom Brady there. That's the impact of that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
way
your
more.
future. That's
Yeah.
your legacy, I guess, potential legacy going forward. Money is like a future legacy. There's probably a word for that. I just can't think of it.
No, that is it. You're right. You're totally right. It's the
Yeah.
legacy of a team. And then 2030, you're going to be looking back and be like, oh, like the 7th round draft pick of the 2021 draft was given to a different team, and that ended up being a goddamn Aaron Rodgers 2.0.
Yeah. It's very possible. So yeah, but maybe that's the point, is that money is not really a big deal to these people. Like we were talking a few weeks ago, where Marshawn Lynch just kept not talking to the media in spite of all of these fines that he was getting. Like these guys have tons of money, especially the management. The coaches getting fined for not wearing their mask is like, okay, yeah, that's brutal, but like $100,000 fine sounds so extreme, but that's just like the cost of doing business over there. But if you're taking away draft picks, then that is a whole different story, a whole different level of impact to the team. And it's like, dude, they were just on the field tackling each other. Like, I guess the optics of it is pretty horrible considering everything that's going on in the world. But it's so bizarre to me that I see them on the on the field, smashing their helmets into each other, and then after the game, when they go to shake hands, they have to be wearing their masks. I understand that it's optics, but then they go and take a 7th round draft pick. Doesn't sit right with me.
Do you think Roger Goodell was with his family and extended family during Thanksgiving?
Oh, I would, if he was, I bet he wasn't taking pictures of it.
Yeah, like Governor Newsom in California. That was one thing I was going to say. It's all these the laws being made, from state to state. They can't even follow their own bloody laws.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone thinks
it's
that
hard.
that they're the exception in some way. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen in a few weeks after those Thanksgiving dinners, because I saw a lot of people on Instagram having a great time with their family. But there was, oh my goodness, on a Thursday game, there are these two twin brothers playing on opposing teams, and the commentator is saying, they're like, no, they're not allowed to have their Thanksgiving dinner together, but like they can see each other here, and like that's nice. And it's so sad to me that these families aren't allowed to be together. But yeah, good point about Roger Goodell, who's making these decisions. But again, he's not posting it on Instagram. So, but everyone hates him anyways, so I would not be at all surprised. And then our final piece of news that I have listed here is very interesting to me, is that the Lions fire Matt Patricia and their GM Bob Quinn. I find this interesting just because I have enjoyed Matt Patricia. I followed him with his time in the Patriots a little bit. He just comes off as a jovial dude, but it turns out that is not the case. So during his time with the New England Patriots, he helped lead the organization to 3 Super Bowl championships, 6 AFC championships, and 13 AFC East divisional titles. So a very decorated career as a Patriot. And he did not have the same success over in Detroit, obviously. I mean, he didn't have the same weapons, and he didn't have Bill Belichick spying on other teams. So right now they have a 4-7 record that was not satisfactory. Reportedly, he had a my way or the highway type of attitude, which alienated some team members, and it was not good enough for them. So, what's your take on coaches being fired mid-season?
Well, I mean, it's pretty rare, but usually for the upper management that happens. But coaches, it doesn't happen a whole lot. So they had to make an impact. They're going to do it now. They have something lined up. And I just think this one was a little weird. I mean, I understand his record. Okay, 2 seasons with Matt Patricia, 13, 29, and 1. Not great. Not great. Not great at all.
No.
But they have arguably such an underutilized team. They have Matt Stafford, who players all the time say he's like a top 3 quarterback, and if you watch him and you understand the nuances of the game, he's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the entire game. They've got a great receiving core. They have a great running backs. DeAndre Swift has been good. They have Adrian Peterson, who when he needs to step up, he's totally stepped up. And there's a lot of potential on this team, but it's just not being used the way it needs to be. So something's got to change. I think it was a little intense. Like you have some coaches that have been in there for like 4 years who have a way worse losing record than they do, right? Look at the middle of the whole Browns like a few years ago. I forget the coach's name, but he wasn't let go until a few years.
Yeah.
So, I think that was a little bit aggressive. I think Matt Patricia is a brilliant coach, and yeah, like his accolades are huge. He's got a laundry list of wins under his belt. And it's an interesting venture as a head coach, and so we'll see if he continues on the head coach train. I don't know of anyone else that's going to need like a head coach change. Maybe at Adam Gase at the Jets, and
And also Mike McCarthy. I think up until recently they've been really unhappy with his strategies. So I could see them looking for a change as well.
yeah, well, maybe we'll see. I think
Unless he keeps rolling out the watermelon, then
yeah,
to get the W's.
he's got his objectives. He's going to roll out the watermelon,
Yep,
smash
the objectives.
smash the objectives. Also, another thing is Joe Burrow successfully went through knee surgery.
Oh hell yeah, nice.
Which is really good, and it's looking like 8 to 9 months of recovery, and he will. His record doesn't speak a whole lot. I mean, he's gonna in the off season. He's a franchise QB. He's going to get a lot more protection, I think. Hopefully the Bengals do the right thing and give him the coverage he needs. So he was 2-8-1 with them before he got injured, and hopefully he'll be totally fine moving forward.
Yeah, that's a quicker recovery time than they initially suggested. So that's one positive, I suppose. So what we could also do is go through the upcoming games because the implications are getting a lot more intense. Like we are coming close to the playoffs. So shall we make our picks?
Yeah, we'll talk about a couple of the big games coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about the Titans versus the Browns?
Titans are going to win.
Titans are going to win?
Yeah.
They're both 8-3 right now.
Titans.
They both have arguably they have Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. Their running games are on point right now. The last time they met, Titans blew them out 43-13. But that was last year in September.
And they have Myles Garrett back, so that's something.
So we'll see. I think it's going to be a lot tighter than what it was last year because I truly think that the Browns they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to go through second round. I don't know if I have that much trust You said it before. You said it earlier today. You're like, I don't know. I don't know about this Browns team. I don't know about this Browns team.
But
We don't know.
I saw this meme, and it's like the Browns are 8-3, and literally no one cares. And how has this kind of gone unnoticed? I guess like that's a really good record, but no one seems to care, and still no one has much confidence in them. And that's exhibited by my immediate reaction to the Titans beating them. But I would love to see them do well. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think you're right. Titans are gonna win, but I think it's gonna be a lot tighter than we expect it to be.
Yeah. Okay. Who's
We
next?
have Colts versus the Texans, who just lost Will Fuller.
Oh, the Colts will win.
Colts are gonna win. I see, like obviously with Will Fuller being gone, like that's a huge hole to fill. They have Randall Cobb stepping up into that position. He'll probably be the number one. Deshaun Watson's been playing out of his mind lately. He's been really good and fun to watch. Um,
Yeah.
the the Colts, Phil Rivers, kind of battling a bit of an ankle injury, but I think with what they have going on right now, a strong all around game, like the top defense in the league, hopefully stifle this Texans machine right now and their offense.
Well, they're doing that themselves by losing players to drugs. But yeah, I take the Colts in that one.
Yeah. Another big game actually, kind of similar to the Colts Texans. We have a Matt Ryan and the Falcons who've been popping
Mm-hmm.
off lately. Lot like again, the game against the Raiders was like no idea that would happen. The
Yeah.
defense played out of this world. They are playing Taysom Hill and the Saints.
Yeah, I would pick the Saints on this one. Falcons are choke masters, and the Saints are showing up. So I'm going with the Saints.
That that makes sense. And you know what? In COVID times, when you don't know what's going to happen, I think the choke masters are going to come through. I think that's the upset of the week is the Falcons are going to beat the Saints in
Okay.
Atlanta. I think that's what's going to happen. I think their defense they've turned a switch in the season. They do this often. They give their fans hope, and this is the exact game that'll give their entire base hope. And they're going to lose some
Okay.
bullshit game after that. Trust me. Um,
Okay.
we the I mean your team Packers against the Eagles, like we just know. Like
We
that's
just
just
know.
we
I
just
mean,
know.
they did have a close call with Jacksonville, though. So, yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, I would be that guy betting, what was it, $99,000 on it? That would be me. Yeah, the Packers should walk all over them, hopefully.
Pack, Packers are gonna walk all over them. I have the Bills and Niners are chalked up here, and the Niners with an impressive win over the Rams last week. The Bills are looking good moving into the playoffs with the Patriots starting to win a couple games. So this is kind of like a must-win situation for the Bills here.
Every
Niners,
game's a must win. It's
every
my
game's a
favorite.
must-win.
My favorite
Totally
phrase.
you're
It's a
totally right.
must win. But yeah, no, totally. This is big. And I don't think the Bills should have a problem.
I think the Cowboys have to beat the Ravens.
Yeah. Oh, and
No,
another fact about the Bills 49ers is that it's a home game for the 49ers, but it's not even a home game for them because they're going to be in Arizona as their home. So they don't have that advantage.
Bills Niner at Arizona.
Mhm.
That's the one.
That's the one to watch. Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. I'm actually kind of pumped for this game. I don't know why. The Cowboys and the Ravens. Um, Definitely, it's a must win for the Ravens. The Cowboys got to show up, but their season's basically over. Who are you taking?
Uh, I I want to take the Ravens because they I like RG3. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be back for this. For this game, Cowboys and Ravens last met November 20th, 2016.
What?
Yes,
Oh my
with a
goodness.
score line of 27-17. There's not a lot of history right there, but what we know is that you're going to get Lamar Jackson back. They narrowly lost to the Steelers in an abysmal game, and this is really they're middle of the pack. They're so underwhelming, and the Ravens can come out and make their last pitch at the playoffs for the next few games
Yeah,
here.
they don't want to be humiliated by the Cowboys here.
Mhm.
And I mean, he has had COVID, but Lamar Jackson has also had a couple weeks off pretty much at this point. So maybe he's going to be well rested and come out guns a blazing. So we'll see. But yeah, I would take the Ravens on that one.
There you go.
And
Also, here's a hot take:
yeah.
the Washington football team are going to beat the Steelers.
Oh, really? I would yeah, I don't know if I can get behind that, but like kind of my theory is that the Steelers were undefeated and I was undefeated in my fantasy league, so I thought that when I lost, they were going to lose also. So it's only a matter of time, right? Like how far can they go? And the Washington football team, they're not bad. And the Steelers, maybe they're tired, who knows? Maybe they're overconfident, they're going to underestimate them. We'll see. What's your take on it?
Well, here's the thing: we talked about it a few weeks ago, but Alex Smith had 2 games to come up and nail it and kind of get the comeback story of the year, and he did, and he's doing really well. And so he's got a chance with a red hot Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin
McLaurin, yeah.
to come out and put on a show against the Steelers, who just narrowly beat the Ravens. Speaking of which, Bud Dupree had his ACL torn, so linebacker, their starting linebacker out for the rest of the year. I think the football team has a chance. I said the Bengals were going to beat the Steelers, and they didn't. Now I'm saying the football team's going to beat the Steelers. That's my hot take.
That's your hot take. That's your
That's the one.
upset of the week. I'm very
Upset of the week.
I'm interested for that game. I like the football team. I hope they keep their name forever. I'm a fan. Alex Smith is a beautiful comeback story, so I'm all for that. But some great games coming up. I'm pumped. Cardinals and Rams. That'll be good. We didn't talk about that one, but who you're taking there?
I want the Cardinals to win
Mm-hmm.
because what that would do is give the Rams an 8-4 record. Cardinals have a chance to keep them at 7-5. Hopefully, Cardinals would go up to 7-5 too. That would Seahawks are playing the Giants. Seahawks are going to extend their record to 9-3
Yeah.
next week. So we want to spread that gap. Cardinals beat the Rams double digits.
Okay, so that's your hopes and dreams. Yeah, Kyler Murray had a stinker last week, so I'm hoping he'll do better for my fantasy league. But that game, I don't think too much about it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And in general, oh, there's supposed to be a game tonight? It's Thursday, but I don't think there's one on because we've all been shuffled
No,
around. So, I
yeah.
mean, we got treated to one yesterday, but it was in the afternoon and da da da. But luckily, at least we can still sit down and talk about football. When we can't watch it, we're researching it and talking about it. So,
That covers like maybe half of the things that need to be spoken about last week because there just was so much that happened.
yeah.
We covered everything that we needed to cover, but like
Hmm.
that was an insane week. I was just hanging out and I get a message all caps from you. This happened. Go check this out. Do this. Oh my god, what is going on?
Yeah, one thing after another. I'm just bringing your attention. Like,
Hopefully like the COVID news goes down. It's only going to increase. Like there's going to be some serious, we don't even know like if this is already happening to the Ravens, like if this can happen to a couple other teams, and it's just going to be mayhem. So hopefully things settle down, we get back into a normal schedule,
yeah, we
and
need to
things
see the
become
yeah,
a
the
little bit
players
more
need to be
predictable.
taking it seriously, and I'm sure they will after some examples have been made. The league doesn't want the season to have to be cut short or truncated in any way, so they're putting out all the fines, all the penalties, and hopefully it pays off because selfishly, I need to see football every Sunday. And I guess Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday now. And when I'm missing it on Thursday, it's like ruining my day. But yeah, I'm delighted so far. But I think that covers all the things and we did it in like record time here, so I'm really proud of us. But Generally, thank you for sitting down with me again. I appreciate you taking time away from studying to talk talk football with me.
Oh, no, thank you for letting me talk to you without telling me to go away. So I appreciate that.
Oh, bless you. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.